right outside, so come on in, don't be shy. We've got ghosts and UFOs. Brace yourself, get ready for the show. Don't be afraid of the dark, the fun's about to start. Nightmares or tales will inspire. Oh, tonight at the Scaredy Campfire. Have you heard tell of a demon next door? Or maybe a cryptid on the lake shore? There's nothing too strange for us here, so if you're ready, stamp out your fear. Don't be afraid of the dark, the fun's about to start. Nightmares or tales will inspire. Tonight at the Scaredy Campfire. Whoa, whoa.
Welcome back, campers, to episode 45 of the Scaredy Campfires. Our tale tonight draws us towards the unseen corners, the ones we avoid out of instinct, yet can't resist looking into. Curiosity lights the match, but something else waits in the smoke. Tonight's first unsettling tale comes from Reddit user u/wrongbank9420, who recounts a night in a friend's studio where a dark, unseen presence made its presence known, lingering just beyond the edge of sight, hiding behind a sagging blanket. What started as a fun hangout took a sharp turn into something deeply disturbing and unexplainable. So this happened, I think, in December of 2024. Me and my two friends wanted to hang out, which we will call Belle and April. Belle has the hangout house, so we obviously went there. But previous to us meeting there, we had talked about taking some funny vegetables. For the purpose of this story, we will call them that. If you know, you know. I was the one to bring them to the function because I hadn't done them in a bit and I had some. Plus my friends are dope and we were obviously down. Now Belle at the time had a room completely separate from the house, which was the studio. The studio had a layout of 2 rooms. She had everything set up in the second room farthest from the door, and since it was the middle of winter, that bitch was cold, so she had a heater on and a big brown blanket to cover up the draft that came from the other room. All my friends, including myself, are relatively short, me being the tallest, standing at an average woman size of 5'3", which just in itself speaks volumes. I mention this because the blanket sagged at the top due to Belle, April, and myself being just a tad bit too short to properly stick the thumbtacks into the drywall. The blanket was quite long, so it dragged on the carpet and could just sit slightly open along with it sagging at the top. So we hung out with the Belle's mum for a while and waited later in the day for us to go to the studio and take them. I eat them whole, which isn't the best, but I do. April did the same but had to take sips of half-drank flat soda to keep them down. And Belle just wasn't having it. She ended up throwing them up in a plastic bag before she could even swallow them. Me and April, being the bad influences we are, mainly I convinced Belle to eat them even after she threw them up. She took 2 Doritos, sandwiched them in there, while April hyped her up while I recorded and screamed in the corner of the bed, already feeling them. Laughing my ass off, about to throw up myself at the thought of her doing this, which was my idea in the first place. So that right there just explains how it was starting off. You know, we were having fun, laughing and giggling like girls do when they hang out, until April went to the bathroom and got into her own head. She came back just off. She said she wanted to lay down and that she wasn't feeling good. Me and Belle knew that she was just getting into her head, which eventually April fessed up that she was taking herself down into a rabbit hole of just a strong feeling of needing to genuinely be put into a mental hospital. Now at this point, I could feel an energy of just pure dark, negative, malicious intent just behind that blanket hanging. I never said anything to either of them because I'm quite spiritual. They are too, but they have a less understanding for things. I may sound full of myself, but I'm just being real. They would panic and fear only feeds. I could just feel that I was tall and gaunt. I could feel as if something was peeking at us over the sagging part, but again, I still didn't say a word, just continued on. I could feel like it was dragging its long, skinny fingers across the blanket, and I know this wasn't just me tripping because I could physically see the blanket moving, just as I could feel the sense of knowing. I felt like it was waiting and kept pacing back and forth and peeking and looking up in the room. I didn't speak until April all of a sudden gasps and jumps, clinging up to me after we had calmed her down. I had asked her what was wrong, and she said the same thing, that she saw the blanket drag and something doing it. I tried to play off as nothing for them, but I myself knew fully now. My suspicions were confirmed. I couldn't keep the truth from them because April kept asking me and begging me to tell her. I eventually looked at her and asked, "Do you really want to know?" I think it scared Belle because my tone and expression must have been too serious. She started to lay down and roll to face the wall and covering her ears while shutting her eyes tight. However, April still wanted to know. April loves things like this, but nothing really happens to her, and she feels like it's because she lives more in town than me and Belle. I confirmed to her that there was something there, but I didn't want to say anything because I know that feeding into it will do no good for us. She asked me what I think we should do, and I gave her my best advice I could. I told her we could ignore it as if it doesn't bother us, or do what priests and priestesses do, which is mock and belittle it and treat it as if it was harmless. Me and her kept going back and forth and describing the same thing and feeling. Eventually she asks me what I thought it was waiting for, or why was it there. I didn't mean to say this, but it just sort of happened. I responded for us to go to sleep. This is what I truly felt. I had told her since she was awfully tired that she could go to sleep, since at this point it was around 2 a.m., and the only person that was asleep was Belle. I told her I was probably going to stay awake, so if anything happened, I could put my foot down and tell it to go away. I would look the devil in the face and tap my foot while pointing a stern finger, if I had to, even though I was shaking in my own little boots. Me and her just stayed up and talked for hours until she eventually spoke up, saying she didn't feel the energy anymore. I hadn't felt it in a while either, but again, I just didn't say anything. Let's just say I was the only one who didn't sleep that night, and that Belle doesn't like the fact that whenever I come over, something weird happens, is how she describes it. Both of them are convinced I have some sort of attachment or attractive energy for this sort of thing. To this day, U/wrongbank9420 still wonders what exactly watched them that night and why it seemed so drawn to their presence. Some energies just don't rest, and some shadows linger longer than they should, especially when no one dares to speak their name. Our second story shared directly to us by Reddit user U/the Time Walker Official, who shares their terrifying experience living in a haunted house, specifically in the dreaded A-frame section, where a pale, disfigured figure with a haunting smile once stared in through the window, changing their nights forever. When I was young, I lived in a haunted house. We had an A-frame section, which was the oldest part of the house and the most haunted. The rest of the house had been built around it later. At the time, my bedroom was at the far end of the house, and it had huge floor-to-ceiling windows that we always kept covered with curtains. One day, our dogs tore those curtains down. They were woods right outside those windows, and I used to sleep facing them like a psychopath. One night I woke up because of a noise, and I opened my eyes. I saw a tall, disfigured, pale humanoid figure with unnaturally small eyes and an even more unnatural smile staring right at me. I was so terrified that I hid under my blanket until I heard birds chirping, which meant morning had finally come. That same day, I begged my mum to buy me new curtains, and she did. Since then, I've never been able to sleep facing a window. I'm pretty sure I saw the same thing a few more times, running past the window, and on that side of the house, just inside the tree line, there was a shed. Thinking back now, I'm convinced that's where it slept during the day. Either way, that was the scariest encounter I've ever had. To this day, the Time Walker official can't sleep facing windows, haunted by the memory of that unsettling smile and the feeling that something still lurks just beyond the trees, waiting, watching, and never truly gone. That wraps up episode 45, Campers. When the shadows stretch a little too far, don't rush to trust the darkness behind them. Until we gather again, stay close to the fire and remember what watches just beyond it.
As the night gets longer and the darkness creeps in, with the eerie silence broken only by whispering wind, come gather round the fire, the flickering flames, and hear the tales of the spooky and the strange. Chill up your back, a shiver up your spine. You'll be haunted by the things that you find. Legends will unfold and stories will be told at the Scaredy Campfire, for only